Have you noticed that? Very, very nice people. And those of you in the back, you want to move down a little bit. Those of you sitting in the back seats there, because when we let the serpents out, especially the reptiles, we usually use those chairs to sit in. So move down here, folks. Move down to the floor. Have any of you ever, we're waiting for the microphone to stand to be. Any of you ever seen me on television? Raise your hand if you have. Good. Good. The rest of you, most of you are from out of the country, Russia, Siberia. I'm holding off talking until I can set this down because I talk with my hands and what have you and so forth. But anyway, tonight, and this is not going to be taped. I will not allow it to be taped. That's an absolute thing. So this affair right now is a live Q&A, but without taping of any kind. Tonight at 7:30, I'm going to do a performance, and in the performance, you're going to see a number of things I'm going to do. I'm only going to perform for about 45, 50 minutes, and that's not usual. Most of my shows are 2.5 hours in length, 2.5 hours. But you're going to see certain things done that you never heard or thought were possible, and you'll understand what I mean when you come here, because a few of you will be participating. Part of you as well. I just don't know where to put this.
Here we go, we got it.
Got a microphone stand. That's all right. Thank you.
Sir.
Thank you very much. This, by the way, some of you probably don't know this, but the stand is not normally used by entertainers. It's used by dentists here in the area. No, I'm only kidding you. I thought what I would do, and I'll tell you how I learned to do this, how it became very important to me. We had the pandemic hit us, where people were out of work for a year, some even longer than a year. Thank God I was able to keep busy, because I performed in people's homes, and I did performances. Some of you paid tickets over the internet to be in your home and participate in my program. And it was refreshing, because some of my audiences, like the Minnesota State Fair, were 10,000, 8,000 people, outdoor affairs, and then others were private affairs, and others were nightclub affairs in Vegas and what have you. So as of 2 years ago, the airline industry announced that I have flown. Now it's a few more miles since 2 years ago because of airline opening up again. But I have performed in my career a little over 3.5 million miles. And having flown over 3.5 million miles, more than many, many pilots, the incidents that I've had are wild. There's a book I came out with, and maybe Marianne, my secretary, can grab it. It's on the desk in the room. But it's a new book. It's my 22nd book. And it deals with part of my life that very, very few people know about. Finally, we've let it out. No, it has nothing to do with pornography. And I have not gotten involved. You seem disappointed. I like that. Can I tell you something? Let me give you a clue. You are around people who can't laugh. Get out. Go meet with others. Because the beginning to the end, historically in society, is when laughter stops. And people are laughing less and less. That is by the way, I'm not an expert. I know, I'm going to be very honest with you. I know very little about almost anything and nothing about anything else. Because I travel a great deal and I'm performing endlessly, I tune in on how people are thinking, the experiences they have. And even the worst of times, believe it or not, in the Second World War, when I was a little kid, because I'm 86 years old, and I jogged. As a lot of you know, I jog 20 minutes every night. I've done it for 50 years. I just run. But when I was a little kid, I would go to the movie theater, and pay 15 cents to see the westerns and everything else. There were the newsreels. We didn't have television then. And there'd be Bob Hope. You could see President Roosevelt laughing, hitting his leg and what have you, because Bob Hope was mocking everything in sight. You hear, I'm not getting involved in politics. I have nothing against politicians. I just wish that most of them had been on the Titanic. But when you hear people getting annoyed, you can't kid this, and so forth, make a note of who they are. Don't you get involved with the business. Many of them are part of a group of people who want to break down the whole fabric of our society. Look at Jerry Seinfeld. Would you have ever believed one of the greatest comedians? And when he told me this, I almost fell through the floor, but now everybody knows about it. He will never work in a university again. Never work in a university again. You want to know why? For the same reason that 6 other comedians will not do it. Because now, if you work in a university as a comedian, you have to supply all your jokes ahead of time so they can edit them. As Jerry Seinfeld says, where in the history of the United States have your humor edited? So folks, ask questions. Keep your mind open. You'll find life extremely refreshing. By the way, as I said, I'm not against politicians in any way, shape, or form, because they have been a very important part of our life, and they're one of the best sources if you want to study mental illness. And my degree is in psychology. I received an honorary doctorate at Seton Hall University, and I've worked with people privately. But what people don't know, as I mentioned earlier, that we all have to give something back for our success, got a return. And I've worked 86 crime cases in my life. I am not successful in all of them. The booklet, here, thank you. Thank you very, very much. This book is called The Adventures of the Amazing Kreskin. It's my 22nd book. But if you saw and hear, because parents tell me, Kreskin, I'm sitting here, you're on television right now, we're live. Did you want me for something? Did you need me for something?
Oh, no, I'm going to moderate any questions that come in.
No, we've told you that you just sit down and relax. Sit down in the audience there. You ask questions, just talk to me. If you're too far away, I'm not interested. Come closer. Because I've done it with an audience of 3, as I said, thousands of people, I can hear them. But anyway, I have worked on crime cases, not solving. I've only been able to help in about 1/3 of the 86 crime cases. But as parents have said to me, Kreskin, I'm sitting here with my kid, sitting in a chair at 5, 6 years old, and these pictures of what happened in some of the crime cases. And then you see pictures there with Johnny Carson, because I did 88 shows with Carson, and he was a fascinating person to work with. How many of you have ever seen Johnny Carson? Raise your hand if you have. A lot of you are from foreign countries, and that's interesting. But he was on television for many, many years. And I got to tell you how one of my first breaks, I didn't know Carson. Performing in Jersey, New York, and Pennsylvania, and some other foreign countries. But I wasn't traveling that much at all. And man was doing the Tonight Show by name of Steve Allen. Most of you don't know who Steve Allen was, but he's a very wonderful nighttime comedian and writer. And he left the Tonight Show and went to Los Angeles, where he did late night television. And all of us in college, and I was touring already, but college we'd watch him at night. He was on 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, what have you. Who took over the night show with Johnny Carson, the most successful nighttime host in history? When you think of today, the shows that are on 11:30, some of them have lost 3 billion viewers. People are not watching anymore. So at the same time, Carson didn't know who I was. And Steve Allen is in Los Angeles. Never heard of me. Finally, he hears about me, decides to fly me out to Los Angeles. It's going to be interesting to see if I could read the thoughts of some people in my audience. And I fly out there, and before the show, I never missed it. I said, to the staff, maybe it's better I don't meet Steve before the show. People will think something's rigged. He said, that's a good idea, Kreskin. We'll just have him introduce you. Listen to this incident. Nobody knew that Johnny Carson was watching the show that night. So Steve Allen says, we're all interested in ESP, the power of the mind. This young man, I was in my 20s, 22 or 23, he has an unusual gift. All welcome Kreskin. They call me the Amazing. Carson gave me that title. It's Kreskin. I walk out. I got to tell you this. I didn't know television. And the lights were very bright. 1960s. The lights around the cameras were blindingly bright. And like a fool, I'm walking out, and Steve Allen's at the other end of the stage, and I'm smiling to the camera. As I get closer and closer to Steve Allen, I suddenly can see 2 cameras, 3 cameras, 4 of them, because the lights are blinding me. When I get to Steve Allen, he's standing on a dais. I trip over the dais, fall flat on my face on national television. My family considers that the highlight of my career. Steve Allen says, young man, are you okay? I said, yeah, I'm all right, Steve. Okay, we'll go on with things. I was on for half an hour. Carson was home with his wife because he always taped in the afternoon. And he heard a Mentalist was going to be on, and he watched the show. He saw that incident. And 8 or 10 weeks later, created on his program a character called Karnak, the Magnificent. And a lot of you are nodding your head. That guy falling over the desk was me. And he based the thing on that whole crazy incident. The last show I did with Johnny was, I said, my 80-some show. So I said on the air, I said, Johnny, you never let your viewers forget me. No, the mighty Karnak. So in today's day and age, you can't forget things that easily anymore, folks. Believe me. I thought you'd find that an intriguing story. Listen, maybe you have a question or two, and don't ask me. When you ask me, don't ask me about my why I was in prison for 22 years or the pornographic side of not only joking or what have you. But everybody says, because when I do private shows, or I'm doing a theater thing, after the show, they have a Q&A, and people want to ask me about my abilities, what have you. If you had a question or so, raise your hand, and maybe I can give you an answer. Anybody here have a question in the audience you might be wondering about? If you do, put your hand up. Good. You got a question? I'm sorry, I couldn't see with the lights on. What's the question, sir?
How long do you keep doing this?
How long what?
How long do you keep working?
Well, go on the internet, because I'm very proud of it. You'll find it very refreshing. I thought it would be a cheerful thing to do. 3 or 4 years ago, I put my tombstone in a cemetery in New Jersey, the big one. I thought, hell, I'm paying for this damn thing. I might as well enjoy it while I'm still alive. Who the hell wants to pay for a tombstone that's used after they're gone? So performers, when they come to New Jersey, go to the cemetery because it's the first one that has my name, and but the quote on it is what has been used by reporters. It was even mentioned when the tombstone first came out. They said, if you can access the United States, Jersey, look at Kreskin's tombstone. It just was uncovered a few days ago. And this is the key phrase on the tombstone. It's my name, my birth date. The other day we haven't filled it, and a lot of you are disappointed I haven't. And there's a phrase across the bottom that you see as clear as day. The phrase on the tombstone says, even now, I know what you're thinking. Everybody, all the comedians call me and say, Kreskin, that's perfect coming for you and everything else. So I do intend to. I'm not going to announce. In fact, I was going to announce this just a week or two now. I was going to announce my retirement, and very few people know about this, but I might as well announce it ahead of time. I intend to retire 10 days after I pass away. So keep that in. You're looking forward to that. I like your laugh at that. But I know. Listen, that was a great question. And another question, Rachel. What's your name, man? Okay. Karen? Oh, I know a number of gals with that name. I love that name. What's your question? My ability. This is in my book, and a lot of people don't know about this. And it's one of the special stories of my life. As a kid, I didn't read. I read today. BBC came from England to my home, where I just moved from a while ago. They photographed my library. It's over 8,000 books. I read 4 books. When I'm home, I read 4 books a night. Easily 4. And I don't skim read. I don't speed read. No, I don't need that crap. I read. Let me give you a clue. When you went to school, you read out loud. You never were taught not to read out loud. We were told to keep our mouths shut and start to read to ourselves and what have you. So most of us tend to read the same pace as we heard ourselves when we were reading all those years out loud. We tune in on something. If you look at a word that has more letters than today, tomorrow, fun, what have you. Maybe the word is investigation or what have you. You don't start with the I, you go to the N. You see the whole word at once. Nobody spells out every letter. You can learn to take a book and by just moving your eyes over the page, see as I learned to do an entire sentence in one glance. Well, now it takes me to read a novel about 30 minutes, 28, 30 minutes, what have you. Because when I see the page, I don't skip words. All the words, and they have meaning. This is not some mysticism. Teachers say if only someone would sit with a group of people, teach them the idea. So I don't speed read in that way, but thank God I can read very heavily. Now, as far as books are concerned, people send me books all the time to review. And the 22 books I've written, a lot of them deal with experiences in my life. Because I've had the wildest experience. Can you imagine this? And this really happened. Because wait till you see the picture. The artist who found out about this, put this in the book, and parents say to me, Kreskin, my son, after I read the story, saw this, he said, oh my God, Kreskin, how can he be alive and so forth? I have a feature that I've known from all over the world. I won't have time to do it tonight because I do it in my lengthier shows. Universities, college students some of them have me back 5 years in a row, 6 years, and they say, you're going to do this again. I take my check. I give it to the audience. It's my check. I leave the theater under guard. Or if it's a stadium outdoors, like 8,000 people, they have a trailer on the stage, and I go in the trailer, and the police and some other students go there guard me, so I can't see what's going on. My check was hidden anywhere in the theater. Carnegie Hall, 4 balconies. A State Fair, thousands of people, but I'm inside. When it's hidden, and this is no joke, because I've done this 5 or 6,000 times, they come and get me and they bring me into the theater and I come to the stage. The committee who hid the check, 4 or 5 people, are standing there. And I said, you're never to speak to me again until this is all over with. I want you to think of what you did. If I don't find my check, I will return the check to the organization and the program will be for free. Have I failed? Yeah, as of off-Broadway, last year I failed 11 times in all. Most famous was in New Zealand. One night when I failed, I lost $51,000. The money at my insistence was turned over to a crippled children's hospital, most of it, and they named a wing of the hospital after me. But you should see where some of the checks have been hidden. University kids are crazy. I was outside while they hid the check in a gymnasium. They couldn't do the show in a theater because they had too many parents. It was a weekend and the place had 1,000 people. I come back in and I pick one of the subjects that hit it and said, would you think about where you hit it? Yeah. I'm walking through, I come up to this man, an elderly man, he probably was a parent. I said, would you stand, sir? He does. I said, sir, would you open your mouth? I felt like a jerk, there was no check there. Like a jackass, there was no check. I said, sir, I'm sorry. Sit down. Let me go with one other subject here. Take a couple of other attempts. Second subject, I'm walking through the audience. I stop freezing like this. And I turn, and I'm standing with a few thousand people in a place in front of the same man. I said, sir, if I embarrass you, sit down. We'll end it here. The money goes to the college. You stand up. He did. I said, would you open your mouth? He did. I said, does this have anything to do with the roof of your mouth? I wish we had a camera that night. Never forget this as long as I live. Reached in his mouth, took out his upper plates and handed me my check. Crazy as the time I did under university, I walked through the university, I put my hand on a guy's shoulder and say something about a gun. I thought, this is ridiculous. The guy's not a policeman, obviously. Must be a parent. I bring him to the stage, I say, can I open your jacket? He said, yes. Turns out it's a plain clothesman. And he's got a shoulder holster. I said, can I remove the revolver? He said, Kreskin, if you're very careful. I removed it, turned the barrel towards my face. They had taken tweezers and shredded the check and put it down the barrel of the gun. You can imagine, at this university affair, where I'm now in the balcony, and it's an old theater, and people are sitting in a booth. Some of the old theaters had booths. They were on the second floor. And there were lights stretched out from the booth because I guess the students found they couldn't light the stage that easily, so they put the lights at the end of the thing. And I, like a jackass, reach out, get to the light, and the screaming, well, it didn't save my life because it turns out I fell out of the booth. There I was hanging over an audience 1 story high. But something happened which is not drawn here by the artist. When I fell out, and I could have broken my neck and been dead, a man sitting with his family reached and swung his hand and grabbed me by the belt. And there I hung in midair. He had saved my life or a broken back when the authorities came and lowered me and took me to the backstage. And so I insisted on going back on a half hour later. They said, you're out of your mind. You can't hardly walk. I said, no, I did another hour of the show and that was it. So you can see what happens when my check is hidden. A lot of people can't even believe that something like that would be possible. I thought you'd find that interesting, folks. And so you asked me about how I started. I was a kid, 5 years old. My mother was reading to me a comic book. You know, remember the Phantom? And there was another comic called Mandrake the Magician. He really wasn't a magician, he had hypnotic abilities. And I'm reading it, I'm thinking, and he's solving crimes. And it's a cartoon. The papers every day, and then this is the magazine thing and so forth. And that, when I went out to play, 5, 6, 7, 8 years old, that's what I played, Mandrake. I didn't play a detective or Superman or Captain Marvel or so forth. I played Mandrake and what have you. And then, how did I discover some of my ability? I'm in 3rd grade. Curtis says, you're not going to go out and play, folks. It's raining out there. Just stay here. I'll teach you a game. She sent someone out of the classroom. Jane Hamilton, 3rd grade. And we hid a beanbag in one of the desks. She calls in Jane Hamilton and says, Jane, you walk around. Your classmates will say you're getting more and more, you're getting colder. If you're getting near, we'll say you're getting hot. She's walking around, or finally I said, here, it's getting hotter and hotter. She's by the desk, and she reaches for the desk, finds the beanbag. So I was so upset that I wasn't fit to play this game. I never heard of it. Walking home from school, I called my brother and I said, Joey, go over to Grandma's house. Here, take this penny. Hide it upstairs in our house. They rented the downstairs. They're from Italy, and they lived upstairs. He finally calls me, and I go upstairs, steps, go into this old-fashioned kitchen, gigantic upstairs and what have you. And I start walking through the kitchen. My grandmother doesn't know what's going on. And I finally come into Michael's bedroom. I said, Joe, give me a chair. I want to climb in the chair. I climb up on this old wooden chair, and I found my hand rising, and I found myself reaching behind a curtain rod, and I suddenly felt a penny. And here, suddenly dawned on me, I forgot to tell my brother not to think about it, to think of what he did, or to concentrate. He wasn't even concentrating, and I found the coin. Well, being Italian, my family decided I had the evil eye. The word got around, and I got away with murder. So that was the beginning of my career. I thought you'd find that interesting. And then the check test came 2 years later. Another question, folks, anything. Raise your hand if you got a question here. Good, you all know the answers. That's very, over there. What's your name? Stand up, is it Sandy? Amy, stand up, baby. Is anyone in love with you? I love that name. What's the question? What's my favorite? What? Naysayers? The skeptics? Oh. Very, very simple. I've been accused by know-it-alls, in fact, some of the magicians who stink, and I know some great magicians. These are second-rate magicians. Can't say, well, Kreskin is using Confederates in the audience who somehow signal what have you. Well, the new theory that's gotten out in recent years is that I have electronic devices. Because one of the greatest jeopardies all of you are now going to learn and become aware of in the years to come. That, and hear what I'm telling you this, teachers are afraid to tell you this. There are no secrets left on the face of the earth. You can pick somebody in Africa who lives in England or what have you, get their name right. Electronically, certain countries can tune in and tell you everything about that person. You think I'm joking? Politicians don't want to let you know about this because they're using this as a weapon. The politicians that are condemning and so forth, everything else, they're looking for power. So we have no secrets left. So the confidential, the thing could be, well, somehow I'm using electronic devices. My answer is very simple. To anyone who can prove that I have ever in my lifetime used secret paid assistant or secret electronic gimmicks to help me, I will simply answer them this way. I will pay them $1 billion. For all the phony acts, for all the sideshow acts around, you'd think they come out of the rafters. Nobody has sued me now for 30-some years. So that's my answer, and that's a great question. Another one over here, please. You just raise your hand. You got something here? You have a hand back there? Anybody over here? Good. Okay. Well, that's. I don't want to take a lot of your time because I could tell you stories that happened through the years that are some of the wildest things that are happening. By the way, I told you about the Carson show and Mike Douglas. I did more shows with him than anybody in history, and Jimmy Fallon, who reveres Johnny Carson. And by the way, those of you going into broadcasting, those of you who want to become broadcasters, and I can tell by some of you nodding your heads. Let me give you a tip where you're not going to be hired. I wouldn't hire you and others wouldn't either. One of the people who just died, pioneer, and it was a gentleman who created Fox and made Fox tremendously successful. He's going to college in the Midwest. And he decided, I'm going to work for a TV station. So Fox was going to have this show called the Mike Douglas Show. It didn't be a local show. Goes to them and says, I'd like to work for you. They say, young man, what's your experience? He says, I majored in broadcasting in college. My fourth year now, I'm graduating. I directed programs. I directed radio shows. So on and on they went. And this very, very famous man who was running stations said, you haven't given us one piece of crap. Get your ass out of here. I don't want to hire you. What do you mean? He says, no, you want to know this business? Get a job in a small station in a local town. Work your ass off. And then come back to me a year from now, because I want to know that you understand the way cameras work, the way things move around, the way mail is delivered, the treatment and so forth. Don't tell me you got some pontificals. So he said, please, I want to work. Please, I want to work with you guys. He said, no, get your ass out of here. Finally, he walked away, and as he told me this story, you can tell him who you want. He came back and said, I'll do anything for you. And I said, okay, I'll hire you. Pay you $35 a week cash, and that's it. And you'd have to, he just died a few weeks ago. It was the biggest investment he ever made in his life. He learned everything about the business from the bottom up. So when you're going into something as challenging as this, folks, get a larger picture. If you come back with some high degree and you know it all, I will give you a little secret that they won't tell you. Chances are they will hire you for one moment. They want someone who can handle challenges. There are people today who don't want to take jobs because the jobs are too menial. I wouldn't hire them because I got news for you, well-kept secret. My parents came from Italy, my parents came from Poland. None of them came here and had a job where they were being given money. They suffered and worked their ass off. They were all successful because that's the secret of life, to win over disaster or negative. Wouldn't you agree with me, folks? Oh, I've gone over time. I'll take one more question.
You have like 10 more minutes if you want to.
10 more, raise your hand if you got a question, folks. Anybody here? Anybody back here? No one? All right. No one raised their hand, huh? Where? I'm sorry. Dale, something about Johnny Carson, what?
What you used to do on Johnny Carson when you pick out people in the audience and then say something about them? Like the
About-
people that you never knew.
About something in the audience or the
About
people?
someone in the audience, yeah. Like say something about them.
About the people in the audience?
Be about somebody, a random person.
Well, those are stories which if you see me tonight, you'll get a feel of what it's all about. But let me tell you some things I didn't talk about for a long time. I was in Indiana, and it was a nightclub. It was my second week there, and it was sold out every night. A lady in the audience, and I told I told people their social security number. One man at Carnegie Hall, or I forget where it was, said to his wife, and I heard him say it. I wondered if he could tell me my Army number. Story that I wish we had a camera then. I said, "Where are you? Did you?" I gave him his name. I said, "Did you say something about your Army number?" He says, "Yeah." Quietly said to my wife, "I wonder if you could tell me. Let me see if you'll think of each digit one at a time." I gave him his Army number, and it was one of the letter I got from him was, and then the people there was very impactful because it turns out he was in the Second World War, and his wife did not even know his serial number. No, most servicemen don't even talk about it in that way. But sometimes some things have happened that I don't talk much about. I mentioned in my book, one lady in Indiana, reading her thoughts, I stopped. Stopped the show. That was it. Nothing, I didn't say anything bad. I said, "Folks, something's come up. Let it call, shorten my program. I hope you understand, and please, I love my work," and that you walked off. When I got to my dressing room, the crew came back and said, "What's going on? Because something's wrong." I said, "Yeah, the lady who just thoughts I just read. Get her, bring her to see me. She plans to commit suicide in 1 hour." They brought her backstage. We talked, and my religion is very important to me. My family thought I could become a priest. They thought I could become a priest, which would have made a mess of the Catholic Church. But anyway, we talked, and I made her. I talked to her for a while and said, "I'm not going to be here anymore." They got a priest that came in and sat with her, and we made an agreement that she would see the priest every day for the next 7 days. 6, 7 years later, I'm in New Jersey, not in Indiana, in New Jersey. I'm reading it's a fundraiser for a showroom where they're selling furniture and everything else. It was Sunday. And I'm performing. People paid big prices for the show. When it's all over, show's over, lady runs out of the audience and comes up to me and throws her arms around me and says, "Kreskin, do you remember me?" Turns out it was the woman that 7, 8 years ago planned to commit suicide. But some of the experiences you have are kind of moving. Maybe one more question, folks. Raise your hand if you got something to bundle about. Anybody here? Oh, I got to tell you. You have your hand up? No one here has their hand up. I got to tell you. Right over here. Where? I'm sorry. Yeah. What's your name? What's your name? What's your name?
Cindy.
Jimmy?
Cindy.
Cindy. What's your question, Cindy?
So what's the most interesting mind you've ever read?
One of the most interesting mind I ever read. Well, I've read a lot of, I've performed in prisons, I've performed in all kinds of scenarios, what have you. And I've read a lot of, and presidents and what have you. But sometimes the most interesting thing is, I'm in Japan. Carson, when I came back, because my television series was seen all over the world, but they dubbed in Japan so that the people can understand it. So Carson says, I come back to the show. He says, were you able to read the person's thoughts that had his own show? Did he speak English? I said, no, he didn't speak English. Johnny says, what'd you do? I said to the crew, I know you're all going to have all English-speaking people on the air with me, but leave him on and get someone who can speak English as well as Japanese and so forth. So I come on the air. Carson says, well, how could you read his thoughts? I gave him a chart like this. I said, sir, Draw, I can't get a word because I don't know Japanese words. Draw an object on the chart, something that you can picture and what have you. Step back. So he moved back to the curtains, and Mike could see, the audience couldn't see what he was doing. And he finally drew something, held it against him. And I turned to the interpreter, who was a psychologist who spoke both Japanese and English. I said, "Sir, you didn't see what he drew it against the psychologist. I had no idea." I said, "Come over here with him." So he came over, and I had a chart. I was just supposed to try to draw what he had in mind. It was horrible. To a square, to a triangle, to an arrow. I said, "Would you tell him to look at it and not think of what it is, but just to look at it?" Did. Finally I drew, listen to this, a triangle like that with the point up there. And under it, I drew a circle. I said, "I can't get anything more." The psychologist said to him in Japanese, "What is it?" And he told him, and the psychologist says, "Kreskin, you blew our mind." I said, "What do you mean?" Look what he drew. He had drawn an ice cream cone. Circle at the top, triangle at the bottom, or whatever, and I had the shape of the cone. But I didn't know it was an ice cream cone. So I thought I've had crazy experiences through the years. Is there one more question you'd like to ask me? Is there a second question you'd like to ask me? No, I'm not going to give you the numbers that are going to come up. Oh, I got to tell you one more thing. I'm not going to give you the numbers. I am banned from all the casinos in the Western world now because I can't play. I used to love to play blackjack and what have you, but I did very well. So I was in what made it final. I was in Aruba a few years ago performing at a nightclub. At the end of the show, I said to my road manager, "This is closing night. We're going to fly out of here at 3:30 in the morning. I'm going to go to a casino." He says, "Kreskin, you can't. You're going to get in trouble." I said, "They don't know me here. The people in the audience are from England, or the United States, Canada, what have you." I said, "Yeah, but it's just trust me." So we leave the casino that I'm headlining out with my own show. I go to another casino and we walk in, and I put down, and you can look on my web page, because the man that was there, the witness, my road manager, tells the story right on the web page. I put down $37, 37 in American currency. And I'm playing with the chips, and he's going into the dance room find different girls to dance with. I didn't pick them out for him, he picked them out. He'd come back in, and after an hour, he comes back in and he goes, I said, "Keep your mouth shut, get out of here, don't make a scene." I don't believe this. I said, "Go out of here." So now it's 10:30, 11 o'clock, and there's some stacks of stuff. And finally, it's around 1. I said, "We got to go back to the hotel room. I got to change my clothes. We're flying out of here. Let's convert the money." So he helps me carry the money, the cash, towards the cash before they cash it in. And the money's falling on the floor, but when you win money like that, you don't pay attention to it, so it's there. So we cash in. Now I'm in the lobby of this theater, of this nightclub. And I said, "Anybody here speak English?" A few people do. "Any of you work for the casino here?" Yeah, a few of them did. I said, "Listen, I don't know how much this is. I can't go home with this money. Would you please cash it for me? I'll give you a tip." They went in there. He came back. He had the money in American currency. I gave him a $100 tip. I took the money, packaged it away, went back to the hotel room. When I got in the hotel room, I took the money out and threw it on the bed. And I said, call the guy that booked me. He says, Kreskin, it's 2:30. I said, you gotta call him. I get him on the phone. He says, Kreskin, I know you're leaving at 3:30. Get your ass out of here. I said, you gotta come over here. He says, all right, I'll come over to my bathroom. Knocks on the door. Door's open. He walks in, looks at the bed and says, what in God's name did you do? I explained that I was playing blackjack. I wanted to convert the money. I said, would you help me roll it up so I can put it in my pockets? And if I put it in the suitcase and they open the suitcase, they're going to think there's something suspicious. Maybe I'm involved in some racket or what have you. So we rolled it up and what have you. You see, folks, when I left town, I had won in that one evening from the $37, $22,400 cash. Exactly $22,400 cash. So if any of you are interested after my talk in having a game with me, I mean, that would be good. Listen, I know I've gone overtime. My show is at 7:30 tonight, and wait till you see two things that I do with playing cards with the Carson flipped out. Nothing to do with sleight of hand, it has to do with the mind. But you've got a good audience, and thank you, and I'll see some of you later.
Thank you, Kreskin.
Wait. Can I say, where is the show going to be?
The other panel room, right down the hallway before you get into where all the vendors are. So if you go right through this doorway
That's
here.
At 7:30.
7:30 tonight.
I just got a crazy idea.
Uh-oh.
Can you imagine if I come here and I'm standing, it's now 7:30, 8 o'clock, 8:30, and you folks are coming over there and I'm waiting here for that? Boy, oh boy. I don't want you to think that I'm slightly off my rocker, but now I only see 12 psychiatrists, and I'm only. Take care of it.
Thank you, Kreskin.